Hello, everyone. It's Miss Man, your Learning Center Specialist. We're going to finish the book, The Skeleton Man by Joseph Bruchac. We left off on chapter 13. Molly had a dream. She was hoping that her dream would guide her to know what to do, how to escape her so called uncle and help find her parents if they're still alive. And so she slips into the dream. The little rabbit helps her. They go into the forest or the park where is close to her home where she's living. And in her dream, she's back, back in the day wearing the moccasins and deerskin dress. And the creepy uncle is now the skeleton man himself. She gets a good look at him. He's chasing her, and they defeat him by going across a log. And when he's halfway across the log, she kicks the log into the river, and he falls way down, down, down into the waterfall. But then she wakes up, and she hopes that it was all just a dream and that her parents were there, but it isn't so. She goes to school. It's Friday, and at school she decides she can't ask Miss Chavis to help her. She needs to figure this out on her own, and she thinks she knows what to do. So let's see what she's scheming up and how she's going to hopefully defeat the skeleton man, the creepy uncle. Tool shed. Chapter 14. When the school day ends, I hang back from the crowd of kids who head out the door. They're happy about the weekend. For them, the clock's hands have almost been standing still, while for me, they've been going double time. Like my brain is going around and around like a top that's out of control. But it has kept circling back to one idea. It's a crazy one, but the only one I've been able to come up with. Like the kids, the workmen have been eager for the day to end too. They've even left before us, and that's my first real break. And that the fact that they've left their toolboxes open again. Sure, they put a yellow ribbon across the hall in front of the library to keep people out. You know how easy it is to duck under a yellow ribbon? And though my backpack is a lot heavier when I get onto the bus, no one notices. When I get off the bus, I stand for a long time looking down the darkening road. I feel so scared. Should I run away now? But where? And what good would it do to me? Not only that, but for some reason, I feel as if running away now wouldn't just affect me, but my whole family, my real family. Dinner is waiting on the table for me. It's pizza, and it looks good and smells even better. And there's an open bottle of Coca-Cola, too, my favorite drink. I sit down and look at the pizza, and then I shake my head. I won't eat any of this dinner either. What's wrong? My so-called uncle's whispery voice comes down suddenly from behind me, and it makes me jump. I turn and see him in the doorway, standing with his back to me. Feeling sick again? He says. There is a tone in his voice that worries me. It isn't concern, it's sarcasm. It's like he's saying that he knows more than I do, that he knows what is going on and what's going to happen, and I don't. I hope he's wrong. I'm just tired, I answer. I take my bag and go upstairs and go into the room and lock the door. I take a book out of my bag and try to read it. The letters of the words all look so strange, like strange insects crawling all over the page. But time doesn't crawl by. Before long, it's dark outside. I turn out the light, and in the room, I wait. His footsteps come up the stairs and pause for a long time, too long, in front of the door. Then the snick outside the lock comes. I start breathing again. I stuff the pillows under the covers to make it look like I'm in there. I crouch in the shadowiest corner by the window. I start counting the times I breathe in and out. I'm up to 3004 when I hear the sound of the door downstairs. Yes, I think. It's just as I hoped. He's keeping to the same routine he follows every night. He always spends time in that tool shed before he comes up and goes to bed. I peek out the lower corner of the window and see his shadowy shape across the yard, and the light goes on in his tool shed. I don't feel My feet don't want to move. Now, I say to them. With small, timid steps, I make my way to over my backpack, open it, and fish around for what I want. A heavy thing with a pistol grip. I pull it out. A power screwdriver. The door may be locked, but the hinges are on the inside. The whirling of the drill sounds terribly loud, even though I keep telling myself it isn't. I stop everything and listen. I don't hear anything, and I continue. One screw, two, three. The screws are long and heavy, and I put each one into my pocket as it comes out. I have to go get I have to get up on my toes to reach the top ones. I drop the fifth screw and it hits the floor with a loud thwack. Thwack. Again, I stop. I listen. But all I hear is silence. I start breathing once more. Finally, the last screw is removed. I stand up and take the foot-long crowbar from my pack. I pry it between the jamb and the door. The door pops free with a soft thump. I grab hold and pull it towards me and the locks slip out. Now that it is free on both sides, the door almost falls over, but I lean my shoulder against it and manage to prop open against the door jamb. I slip out and pull my backpack after me. I can't get the door exactly back into place where it was. But by leaning it in a little, I make it look like it's still closed. I should have looked out the window before I left the room to see if the light was shadowing under the tool shed door, but it's too late for that now. I put the pack over my shoulder and then start down the stairs, stepping sideways on each chair, trying to find them from the creaking. It took me a year to reach the bottom. Now I'm only a few steps from the front door, but that is not where I'm headed. I need evidence. I head for the room with the computer in it. There has to be something in there that has proof that I can take, proof that my uncle isn't who he say he is, proof that I am really in danger. The door is open again, and that same light is shining from the computer screen. But I don't focus on that. Instead, I turn to the pile of glossy pages next to the keyboard. I turn one over, and it almost makes my heart stop beating. It's a photo of my mother, and it's not an old picture, but a recent one. How do I know that? Because she's wearing the same brand new blouse she was wearing the last day I saw her and Dad go out the door. But she doesn't look exactly the same as she did on that day. On that day, she didn't have her hands tied together and she has leaned back against the rough board of a wall shed. Blah, blah, blah. On that day, she didn't have her hands tied together and she wasn't leaned back against the rough board of a wall of a shed, and she didn't have a piece of duct tape over her mouth. Hard evidence. Chapter 15. I stopped looking at pictures after finding the one of my mother. Things are starting to make more sense now and no sense at all. All I know is that I have to take the whole stack of pictures from his computer desk. I put them into my folder in my backpack. There's other stuff on his desk too, lists of things that have to do with databases and hacking into computers like the one at the bank where Dad works. I grabbed that stuff and then a handful of computer disks lying on the desk. I zipped the pocket tight and put the backpack over my shoulder. Once I get rid of the tools, it won't be that heavy to carry, but I don't take out the rest of the tools I've borrowed from school. Not yet. I kneel down and make sure that my sneakers are tied and double knotted. I'm going to change my plan about getting on the outside phone booth near the park entrance where I can still call Miss Shabbos, but I'm going to add one thing to it. I walk out the back door toward the tool shed. I've looked at that yard so many times from my window, but I've never been in it before. Is this the place he told me to stay away from? Not that he needed to? Until now, I've tried to avoid any place where he might be. There are decorative stones on the ground that used to be part of the abandoned overgrown garden. They are white and round and the size of golf balls. I pick up 3 of them. I'm a good runner, maybe the best in school, but I'm no pitcher. I might miss on the first throw. But I don't. The stone sails through my upstairs window with a crash that is satisfying to me as it is loud. I don't need to throw another one. He's heard it, and he comes out of the tool shed moving so fast that it scares me. He doesn't move like an old man, but some kind of big cat. He looks in all directions and seems to be sniffing the air, but he doesn't see me or smell me hiding behind the cedar bush next to the shed. He stares at the house and then loops across the yard and goes inside. I'm counting under my breath as I dart into the tool shed. When I get to 100, I tell myself I'll turn around no matter what. It is so clean and neat inside. The shelves are spotless. The tools are hung on pegboards. It's mechanical. It doesn't look as if a human being has ever been in there. 10, 11, 12. I see that the back wall is a funny angle. I try to push it and it moves like a door, then sticks. 13, 14, 15. I pull out the crowbar and pry it open. There's a small room behind it with a dirt floor. But it's not just dirt. In the middle of the floor, it's something that looks like a ring. 22, 23. I kneel by the ring, brush the dirt away, and see that it's connected to a trap door that's held tight. But I don't. The stone sails through my upstairs window with a crash that is satisfying to me as loud as it is loud. I don't need to throw another stone. He's heard it, and he comes out of the tool shed moving so fast that it scares me. He doesn't move like an old man, but like some kind of big cat. He looks in all directions and seems to be sniffing the air. But he doesn't see me or smell me hiding behind the cedar bush next to the shed. He stares at the house and then loops across the yard and goes inside. I'm counting under my breath as I dart into the tool shed. When I get to 100, I tell myself I'll turn around no matter what. It is so clean and neat inside. The shelves are spotless. The tools are hung on pegboards. It's mechanical. Like it doesn't even look like a human being has ever been in there. 10, 11, 12. I see that the back wall is at a funny angle. I try to push it and it moves like a door and then sticks. 13, 14, 15. I pull out the crowbar and pry it open. There's a small room behind it with a dirt floor, but it's not just dirt. In the middle of the floor is something that looks like a ring. 22, 23. I kneel by the ring and brush dirt away, and I see it's connected to a trap door that is held shut by a hinged metal strap that fits over a thick metal staple. I pull out the pin that holds it shut. Then I take a deep breath and pull the ring. The door is heavy, but it slowly begins to move. Dirt hisses off as I lift it. There's another door, a metal grating fastening with a padlock. But I can look down and through it in the dark room hollowed out like a cave under the tool shed. Hello? I hiss. 27, 28. A hand reaches up and I touch the grating. I recognize the hand. Dad? I whisper. Our fingers touch, link briefly before he falls back. My heart is pounding. It's really him. He's alive. There's so much I want to say, but I can't make my voice come out. And in the back of my mind, I remember that I must keep counting. 31, 32, 33. I swallow the lump in my throat and manage to ask the question I have to ask, even if I'm afraid of what he might answer. Where's Mom? She's here, he answers, his fingers push away mine. Run! Is she all right? Are you all right? Run, Molly, he says again. There's no time. Get away. No, Dad, not yet, I whisper. And as I say, I feel a certainty and strength that I've never felt before, and I know what I have to do. I'm going to do it. I've got the bolt cutter out now. I maneuver it around the lock that holds the grating and press down with all my strength. The jaws of the colt boulder shear through the steel as if it was butter. 40, 57, 58, 59. Run, Dad says now. Run now. Now, run, Molly, run. The falls, Dad, I whisper. You know the place. I push the bolt coulter and every other tool I have in my bag through the grating. I've lost counting now. I don't know if there's enough time, but I'm sure now that I'll have to do. I'm sure now, by now, that he'll have gone upstairs to my room. But the way he moves like a cat so fast makes me uncertain how long I'll take. I'm through the hidden door. The door of the tool shed is ahead of me, but I don't go out through it straight. I duck and twist as I come out, and it's a good thing because he is there waiting in the darkness, and he almost grabs me. His bony fingers slip through my loose braid in my hair. I scream and yank, and I'm free. I go around the house toward the road. Just as I expected, he's gone around the other side to cut me off. He thinks I'm going to run towards town, toward the other houses, because that is his last house on the road. He's so wrong. Going to run the other way, and I'm running fast, running and running. I venture a quick look back to see where he is. He isn't far behind me, no more than 50 yards. The moonlight glitters off his white forehead. Suddenly, a rabbit darts off of the bushes and crosses in front of him, making him stumble. I gain another 20 yards, running and running. Looking back only will slow me down. I won't risk that again. I feel the strength of that story and from long ago in my legs. I won't get tired. I run and I keep running. I've gone at least a mile now. The lake glitters in the moonlight off to my right, and the visitor center is just ahead of me, but there's no time to use the phone. I pass the sign from the park, turn onto the trail, and begin to climb. I can no longer hear him behind me. This is my territory now. I'm sure I know it better than anyone chasing me. But I don't. I round the corner where the trail is narrow and the cliffs fall off to the right. He's there ahead of me, cutting me off. There's a grin on his skeletal face, and his long arms are spread wide as if to welcome me. Escape. You can't escape me, he says in a hollowed voice, a taunting voice. Can you, little niece? If I try to answer him, I'll be done for. It would be like a mouse trying to argue with an owl. Instead, I throw my backpack at him, and he staggers back a step. I scramble up the slope off the trail into the bush. The trail edge is thick with blackberry bushes. They scratch at my hands and my face. Dead thorns stick through my jeans into my knees, but I get low as a rabbit, and I crawl through and under the brush. He can't. I hear him being held back by the thorny branches. I crawl until I find a clear area, and then I stand up and move as quickly as I can along the dark wooden slope. I roll my feet as I step like Dad taught me so that I don't make much sound. Then I stop to listen. I don't hear anything for a few heartbeats, and then, whoo! It's like a cry of an owl just below me on the trail. But it's not an owl, even though it makes me want to jump like a little mouse being scared out of its hiding. Whoo! Skeleton Man calls again. I'm waiting for you. I will get you. I don't move. I just I'll sit here all night if I have to. I won't let him scare me out into showing myself. Silence. Nothing but silence for a long time. Too much silence, for it means that other things in the woods that would normally be making noise at this time know something else is out there waiting. Something dangerous, like me. They're waiting. Then I see it, a beam of light coming through the forest. It's sweeping back and forth, and not random, but moving slowly, patiently. He has a flashlight. Its illumination is moving toward me. Its beam like a strand of a spider's web that will catch me. It's getting too close. I have to move. I crawl down slope as slowly as I can, hands width at a time, until I reach the trail. Then I'm up and running towards the falls again. I'm not making much noise, but I begin to hear the feet of the skeleton man thumping on the hard-packed earth of the trail behind me. "Ooh," he cries. "Ooh, I'm coming for you." There's a place just ahead of us, around the next corner, where I remember my father and I had to duck under the long, low limb of a maple tree that overhung the trail. I'm praying that no one has trimmed that branch as the path bends around the hill. Yes, the branch is still leaning low over the narrow trail, just as I'd remembered. I grab it as I run, and it bends with me. Still holding it, I turn slightly. He's too close. He's about to grab me when I fall back and let the branch go, and his hand misses me. The branch whips back and strikes him in the face, knocking him off balance, one knee, and onto the loose stones and at the steep edge where I think he's going to fall. He begins to slip, and for a moment, as if he's going to slide all the way off the trail, but he doesn't. At the last moment, he whips one bony arm out, grabs the branch, and starts pulling himself back up. Before he can get to his feet, I'm up and running again. As I run, I startle something that's been hiding in the brush next to the path. It runs ahead of me, clearly visible in a band of moonlight shining through the overhanging branches. It's a rabbit again. I know there are rabbits all through the park, and you hardly ever walk through here in the morning or early evening without seeing at least 4 or 5 of them. And it's not at all likely that it's the same rabbit that slowed down my pursuer back near the house. But something tells me different, tells me that it's the same rabbit, and it is trying to help me. It runs ahead of me and then suddenly darts off the main path into a smaller, even steeper trail. I know where this trail leads. It might seem like a dead end to some people if they just read the sign that says trail closed or bridge out. But I can see that the wooden planked suspension bridge over the gorge is still there. Its boards are old, but it should be able to hold my weight. I follow the rabbit up the trail, my feet slipping on the loose stones, my hands grasping at the branches and clumps as I climb. Just as I had remembered, there's a hole in the bottom of the chain-linked fence big enough for me to crawl through. It was probably made by the local kids who carried up narrow pieces of plywood to lay over the spots in the long, swaying bridge where the boards have rotted and fallen away. Down, down into the stream, which is nothing more than a thin band of silver among the jagged rocks far below. But it doesn't look as even though the daredevil kids from the high school have ventured across the bridge for a really long time. I drop to my knees and crawl under the fence. A sharp piece of wire scratches my cheek and I feel blood flow down my face. Another wire catches on my pant leg and I pull as hard as I can. I can't be caught here. Whew! The eerie man screams, coming from right behind me, and then there's a crash as his headlong rush takes him right into the chain link wire. I feel something grabbing at my foot. I pull free, leaving my sneaker behind. There's no time to stop or think. I start to cross the bridge, and my arms spread out to hold the rustling cables each on my side. My eyes are looking down to see where to place my feet. 1 step, 2, 3. Old boards creak under my feet, and the bridge begins to gently sway back and forth. 5, 4, 5, 6. The rhythm is almost like that of a dance. 9, 10, 11, 12, and I'm almost halfway across. Molly. The harsh voice that cuts through the night from behind me makes me turn and take a wrong step. My foot goes right through the rotten board. He's never spoken my name before, and the chill, it sends it down all the way down my spine and makes me shake all over. Come back here. I can't stop myself. I turn around and look. He's standing there, back at the end of the bridge, perhaps hesitant to cross it. His long arms are held above his head, his fingers spread out so wide that they look like talons of a giant bird. The moonlight glistens off his pale, hard face and on the top of his head, and it seems as if there's no skin at all. His eyes are twin blue flames burning from within his skull. No, I say, not just to him, but to myself. I wrench my foot free, breaking away from his hypnotic gaze, and start forward again. There's a thin piece of plywood just ahead, spanning the last 10 feet. Suddenly, the bridge starts to shake. I know that he's on it, moving across to catch me. And he's coming fast. I'm on the plywood now, and it bends almost to the point where the ends of it overlaps the concrete lip to the edge of the bridge, and it slips free. Oh, but it doesn't. I reach the safety to the other side. Then I keep myself from doing one more thing I want to do, which is to scream for help and run headlong, run as fast as I can to get away from his bony hands that I know that are about to reach out and grab me. But instead, I turn and drop down onto the ground and kicking my heels up against the edge of the piece of that plywood. And even though he's already on it, the plywood slips, floop, past the lip of the stone. The plywood falls from beneath him, sails down into the gorge like a flipping playing card. He pitches forward, his long fingers clawing forward wildly. I try to pull myself back, but one clawing hand wraps around my ankle. It holds on so hard that I feel its searing pain as if I'm being burned by those fingers. I begin to slide back toward the edge. I'm about to be pulled into the gorge with him. I grab a hold of a metal bar that sticks up from the concrete. My arms feel as though they are being torn from my shoulders, but I don't let go. Instead, I kick at the fingers with my other foot, the foot that still has the sneaker on it. Those fingers are strong. They are all but bone, but nothing but bone. And I'm alive, and I'm stronger than Skeleton Man. I won't let him defeat me now, and I kick again and again and again and again. The clawed fingers wrapped around my ankle slip free, and I hear one last despairing cry of, "No!" as the Skeleton Man falls away from me like a bad dream, disappearing when you wake. My hands are slipping, but after all I've been through, I can't fail now. I won't let myself fall. I dig in my fingers. I dig my fingers in. My sneakered foot finds a rock for leverage as I pull and claw my way up to the top, away from the brink. My heart is pounding like a drum, but I'm alive. I'm breathing in and out as I look at the sky that is filled with the light and the moon and stars. Breathing heavily. After a while, I inch my way back to the edge and look over, and all I can see is darkness and the thin, glittering line of a stream that falls below, far below, a ribbon of silver touched by the light of the moon. I rub my place where the skeleton man's fingers scratched my ankle. I can hardly believe it, but I'm perfectly safe at last. "Molly!" A deep voice calls from the main trail below me. "Molly!" The voice is worried, almost frantic, but it makes my heart leap with joy. "Molly!" "I'm here, Dad!" I answer. "I'm coming!" Then I go leaping down the trail as my feet sure as those of a mountain goat. I feel like I can't fall, but even so I stumble just before I reach him. But he doesn't let me fall. Powerful arms catch me and lift me up right off the ground, and then my dad is hugging me. "You saved us, Molly," he whispers. "You saved us. You're our warrior girl." "Dad," I sob back, "Dad, I don't feel like a warrior girl. I don't feel like a warrior girl at all. Just a little kid. I just feel like a little kid who wants to cry and cry." I wish I could say that they found my so-called uncle, but they didn't. They didn't, not on the rocks below or in the swift running stream. Even though the water was high and the current would have carried him down into the deep lake, they should have found him, but they didn't. Where his body remains is a mystery. So does his real identity. I found my backpack on the trail where I threw it at him, but none of the evidence I gave them and nothing he left in the house gave any clue. They found the doctored photographs, the phony identification papers, all the stuff in the computer, including the way he was able to hack into the banks and the databases to get money and information about people. It appeared that he'd been chosen our family because of Dad's job with the bank and because he could use me and Mom as leverage to make Dad give him the information he needed. The fact that we didn't have any relatives made it even easier for him to deceive people about being my uncle. There was also a diary with photographs of how he'd planned everything and carried it out. It was all there, from posing as a highway patrolman to stop their car while they were on their way home that Saturday night to stepping in as my next of kin. Everything was there except who he was and why he did it, and what was he planning to do with us in the end. "What was it?" the school psychiatrist said to me. "What was it that made him want to have total control over my family like that? Was it a chemical imbalance? Perhaps it was because of the things that happened to him as a child, or perhaps not." Then she tapped her pencil against her chin and rose and looked wise. "Right. I remember what my dad and mom said to me about it all when the police and the reporters and the lights and cameras were finally gone, and there was time at last for us to just be alone together. There's going to be a lot of people talking about this, trying to figure it all out, Dad said. But it seems to me the only place where it makes sense is in our old stories. As he spoke, I realized how much the voice of the rabbit in my dreams had been like his voice. There are still creatures that may look like people, but are something else. The reason creatures like Skeleton Man do what they do is that they like to hunt us. The only way to defeat them is to be brave. He smiled at me then, and I smiled back. I looked over at my mother, and she nodded. But I could tell she had something more to say about it, about why he locked them up under the tool shed and barely fed them, and why he pretended to be my uncle. Dad and I didn't ask her. We just waited for her to speak. Molly, she said, holding my hand tight, you know what a cat does when it catches a mouse? It doesn't kill it or eat it right away. It plays with it for a while first. And that was all she had to say about it. Though Dad reached over and took both of our hands, and we sat there together like that for a really long time. Maybe, like Miss Shabbos said to me, there was never any real why about it. Honey, she said, it happened, but now it is over. Then she sang a few lines from that musical about Don Quixote. Yes, indeed, she said, nodding. You have dreamed the impossible dream. I can live with that. Like one of the old stories I've grown up with, something evil came into the lives of good people, and we found a way to defeat it. My dad and mom and I are together again. We are happy, and that is enough for me. The end. So I hope you like this story. I'm going to read just a little snippet about who Joseph Bruchac is, about the author. And let you know there is a Skeleton Man 2. The Skeleton Man Returns. So I haven't read that one yet. I'll probably read it over spring break. And if I like it, if I get any requests that you want me to do a read aloud, it won't be homework. It'll just be something that you can listen to. Hopefully you like this one and you'll want to hear the second one. All right. So let me tell you about the author, though. Joseph Bruchac. He's a master storyteller and author. He has written numerous critically acclaimed novels, poems, and stories, many drawing upon his Abenaki heritage. Skeleton Man, based on a traditional Abenaki story, is the first book in which Mr. Bruchac has recast the plot of one of the old stories as a novel set in the present. He and his wife, Carol, live in upstate New York in the same house where he was raised by his grandparents. The Skeleton Man.